Welcome back to the channel, or welcome to the channel if you've never been to this channel before. It's DT Performance, and if you've been keeping up with the channel, we have been building a Turbo 400 transmission. Now, as a part of the build series, this video is not going to be included in that build series as part number 5. Part number 5 will actually be installing the intermediate clutches, direct drum, and building the front drum. But this particular video, we are making an upgrade, which is adding a case saver. So let me show you what we got. We're going to be adding the Sonnax 34762-10 case saver. And the reason we chose this over the FTI F4050B is because I'm actually going to be running the braking band. My valve body has engine braking, so I have to retain my second band. So this one is the case saver that I have to use. It is going to require that we cut an extra lug notch in the intermediate pressure plate. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to get you set up and I'll show you how this fits down in there, and we will modify the pressure plate, get everything set up, and in the next video, like I said, as a part of the build series, we'll be installing our steels for our intermediates, our clutches, and then checking we'll air check the transmission. So let's get set up and we'll get this Sonnax Case Saver installed in the transmission. Okay, I do want you to notice I do have the beveled snap ring off the top of the center support, and I did that. I had to take it back out after I installed this because I wanted the fretting ring. Let me zoom in and point to it for you. You can see the fretting ring right down here. Let me get it toward a focus. The fretting ring, I had it lined up to the 9 o'clock mark and it was not touching anything here. Well, if I move it over to this lug that's underneath this pin, this case saver will actually line up in the case. Let me drop it in here and show you. And there will be some of that fretting ring supporting it, or being supported by the case saver. Now, as far as I know, this fretting ring, all it is a spacer that sits underneath this center support. So I don't know how important it is to support that particular ring, but since I'm putting this in here to support my snap rings, adding extra lugs, I want to get all my snap rings in this groove. So that's what we're going to do. Now the next thing is when we set our intermediate pressure plate down in here, it only goes one way. You can notice there is a smooth section of it that does not have any lugs at all. So we've got to set this down in the transmission just like it goes in on top of our clutches and steels. We don't have those in. But you can see I've tried to put the pressure plate in. I've seen other guys on YouTube that actually can get this pressure plate, this intermediate pressure plate in with this installed. Mine will not fit. I have tried every way. But you can see we're going to have to, well, you can't see because my big hand in the way, but you can see right here that when we hang this on this lug, there's going to have to be a groove cut here. And how I'm going to do that, the Sonnax instruction manual, or instructions that come with this case saver, actually tell you to take some machinist paint or some kind of paint and mark this and then scribe your line. And then take a steel, one of your intermediate steels. Now this is an intermediate steel. You won't get it confused with one of your forwards or directs. You can see that it's much larger. And if you try to put this in here, obviously it's not going to fit. So you're going to take one of your intermediate steels, you're going to drop it down in the case, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a Sharpie. This is the last lug in the case, so I'm going to make a mark on my intermediate. Let me get you zoomed in where you can see what I'm doing. I want to make a mark on my intermediate steel, and I'm going to go over and count the lugs where my Sonnax is going to have to drop through. And it's going to have to drop through this. If you count this as 1, it's going to drop through the 3rd lug. So it'll drop through right there. So I'm going to count. I'm going to say this is the 1st lug, 2nd lug, 3rd lug, And I'm going to put me a little check mark right there, just so that I can verify that is the one that I want to use to mark my pressure plate with. And we can double check that. I can show you. We'll take this out. I wanted something repeatable, so when I got over to the workbench, I didn't get confused. So I'm going to put this on the first lug, line that up, and now I'm going to drop my Sonnax Case Saver in there. Lines up on the third one. So that's what we're going to do next. Let me get you set up over here with the camera, and we'll put our pressure plate on top of our steel on top of our pressure plate and get the pressure plate marked. Okay, we've got our pressure plate. We've got our intermediate steel. Again, we're going to line number 1 up with the first available lug. And I'm going to, let me see if I can zoom in where you guys can see better. And I'm going to mark the third. I'm going to line it up with my hands. Make sure I got one lined up. And I'm going to mark my cutout. Now, what Sonnax recommends is to take a hacksaw, a fine blade hacksaw, and you're going to cut small grooves in this notch, just like that. And what you'll do when you get all those small grooves cut, you will break these out and file this down to fit the case saver. So that's what we're going to do. I'm going to take this over to the vise. I'm going to take a, you could take a cutoff wheel, but I'm afraid I'll notch too far, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this a little short of my marks, and I'm going to sneak up on this line with a file and make sure that I don't cut a big gap in it. So let's get this marked. I'm going to mark the edge here with my lines. I'll mark those straight across, and then we'll put it in the vise and take a hacksaw and cut this down and file it and fit it in the transmission. Okay, I've got my mark made, and I went ahead and made me some straight lines across the top of the pressure plate, and I'm going to cut just inside of these lines and just down, barely touching this bottom line, so that I can file it away instead of making a mistake and cutting it too deep and too wide. I want it to just fit and have a little bit of a room, and I want it to look just like one of these lugs. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. So I'm going to put you on time lapse, and I'm going to cut this with a hacksaw, and we'll see how this turns out. Okay, I got you off time lapse. That material is not hard at all, but I showed it a long time in the time lapse, so on a time lapse that you could actually see, but I'm going to get you down here. That's basically what you want to do. Now we're going to try to, we may try to cut a few more of these, but what Sonnax recommends in their instructions is to take and break these out and then file this to fit. So that's what we're going to do now. That was pretty simple. I just stuck a screwdriver in there and that piece just snapped right out. So we'll try to snap these other two out. Let's see how easy this one. Maybe it's as easy. Oh yeah, that's pretty simple. Can you guys see? If I get out of the shadows. Let me zoom in on this last one, get you a good shot. But I just stuck my screwdriver in there, and basically that material just came out. Now I'm going to do several test fits. I'm going to file this and do several test fits, and when I get it fitted, I'll show you my final fitment. Okay, that didn't take as long as I thought it would. This stuff is not that hard. You can see my notch that I've got cut in there, and we can test it out. Drop our pressure plate in. Our Sonnax Case Saver should go right in onto the lug, just like that. Now, before we go any farther, guys, I know I don't have my clutches and my steels in, but what we've got to do, per Sonnax instructions, is now that we have the case saver in, your center support snap ring, again, this is the beveled snap ring. They recommend, they want it to go in at 9 o'clock, but they want one end of this, either this end or this end, to turn, and it's going to wedge up against this case saver to hold it in place. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm going to turn mine this way. Maybe I'll turn it this way. Yeah, maybe we'll do it this way. Let's just see. Okay, I'm going to take you off time lapse for just a second. I don't have it snapped in because I'm going to rotate. I'm going to leave it just like this so I can rotate my snap ring to the position I want before I get it snapped in. If you snap this beveled ring into the case, you will not turn it. It is tight. So with the help of a little bit of tension relief, I should be able to turn this snap ring just a fudge. Okay, let me get you set back over where you can see what I did. Zoom in, and you can see the edge of my snap ring is right up against, almost against the edge of my case saver. We're going to try to move it up against the edge of it. Now, I'm going to lock my beveled snap ring into place. And when I did that, my beveled snap ring moved over some. So I'm going to try to see if I can push this. I don't think there's any way I can push this snap ring around, but we'll try. No. So I'm going to have to take it out and try again, but I'll do that off camera. You guys get the idea. I'm going to move this snap ring right to the edge of this case saver right here. Maybe even let it stick over just a little bit. Okay, we have the Sonnax Case Saver installed with our center support snap ring. According to the Sonnax instructions, they want part of this snap ring to be on the case saver to hold it in the case. So you want it at the 9 o'clock position with a portion of the snap ring up against the case. I'm going to show you how I did it. When I first put this beveled snap ring in, get it to focus, I had it on the thicker part of this Sonnax case saver, and it had my beveled band pulled out, and I didn't like the way it was engaging this first lug right here. So as you can see, I've got it on the skinnier portion right here of the case saver holding it in. So if you guys have different information, please let me know, but I believe that is what they're talking about when they want it on the case saver to hold it in the case. That's how I'm going to do it. There are a couple of more things that I didn't mention that Sonnax mentions in the instructions. Once you get your intermediate pressure plate in, they call it the backing plate in the instructions. Again, you'll have your clutches and steels in here, mine are not. You'll put your intermediate snap ring down in the case with the opening facing the 12 o'clock position, so it will be straight up and down. That will be after you get your, or before you get your band in, and when you get your band in, you may have to grind some of this off to get the fitment around the direct drum that goes in here. And we'll need to check that, and we'll do that in the next video. That'll be video number 5. If you're not keeping up, that'll be what we'll do next. All right, guys, that's going to end out the video. I appreciate you guys watching. As always, if you like this kind of content, please hit the like button. Leave me a comment in the comment box below. If you're not a subscriber, please hit that subscribe button. If you like this kind of content, to see more coming from DT Performance. We're going to finish out building this Turbo 400. And we've got a ton more videos to put out on the S10. So, as always, I'll leave the parts in the description box below. I appreciate you guys watching. Thanks again, and we will catch you in the next episode.